Star Trek really needs to stop wasting TNG's most underrated alien species. Here's why. When fans talk about Star Trek, the Next Generation TNG, the conversation often gravitates toward the Borg, the Romulans, or the Klingons. These iconic species dominate the narrative landscape of the 24th century, and for good reason. They represent some of the best storytelling the franchise has ever delivered. But buried within TNG's rich tapestry lies an alien race that never truly got its moment in the sun, the Tzenkethi. Mentioned briefly, teased in passing, and largely ignored in on-screen canon, the Tzenkethi remain one of the most criminally underused alien species in Star Trek. It's baffling considering how much narrative potential the Tzenkethi hold. Between their mysterious political system, their implied military strength, and their strategic importance to the Federation, they could have played a central role in shaping the politics of the Alpha Quadrant. Instead, they've been left in the margins, overshadowed by species that have already been thoroughly explored. With Star Trek's recent revival across shows like Strange New Worlds, Picard, Lower Decks, and Discovery, there has never been a better time to dust off the Tzenkethi and finally give them the screen presence they deserve. Here's why. The Tzenkethi, canonical ghosts of the Alpha Quadrant. The Tzenkethi were first referenced in TNG's 4th season episode The Wounded. The story focused on Captain Benjamin Maxwell, a Federation officer who began attacking Cardassian ships due to his suspicion of an imminent war. In passing, Captain Picard mentions that Starfleet had previously fought in the Tzenkethi Wars, which immediately set up the idea that the Federation had tangled with them in the past. But that's it. No ships. No ambassadors. No Tzenkethi characters. Just a tantalizing line. Later, Deep Space Nine doubled down on their mystique. In the 4th season, the adversary has Odo and Sisko taking the Defiant on a mission to the Tzenkethi border. Again, the Tzenkethi are used as an off-screen narrative device, essentially a plot excuse for the Founders to infiltrate Starfleet. But once more, the actual aliens never appear. For a franchise famous for its elaborate makeup and imaginative alien designs, the Tzenkethi are one of the strangest omissions in Star Trek history. They're ghosts present in lore but never physically realized. And the longer the franchise ignores them, the more it feels like a missed opportunity. Why the Tzenkethi matter? At first glance, one might argue that the Tzenkethi don't matter precisely because they've never been fleshed out. But that's exactly the point. They represent a blank slate. In a franchise where most species come with decades of baggage and established tropes, the Tzenkethi are a rare chance to build something from the ground up while still honoring established canon. Think about it. They have history with the Federation. We know there were Tzenkethi Wars, which means there's military and political context waiting to be explored. That alone could fuel entire seasons of storytelling. They border the Federation. Proximity means tension. Just like the Romulans and Cardassians, the Tzenkethi's location makes them ideal candidates for recurring conflict and diplomacy. They're shrouded in mystery. The lack of canonical detail gives modern Star Trek writers complete freedom to create a species that feels both new and authentically tied to the TNG/DS9 era. By wasting the Tzenkethi, Star Trek has robbed itself of a potentially rich storytelling vein. And worse, the franchise has defaulted to overusing the same species, Klingons, Borg, Romulans, to diminishing returns. The expanded universe got it right. While canon has ignored them, Star Trek's extended universe, novels, comics, and games has embraced the Tzenkethi. In the Star Trek Typhon Pact novel series, the Tzenkethi are revealed to be reptilian, authoritarian, and highly militaristic, with a rigid social structure that rivals the Romulans in complexity. The novels present them as both pragmatic and ruthless, a species that believes in order above all else. They're written as a true power player, part of the Typhon Pact, a coalition of non-Federation powers meant to rival the Federation's influence. This fleshed-out version of the Tzenkethi shows exactly why they could be valuable in canon storytelling. They're not just another warmongering species, but a civilization with depth, culture, and politics. Even Star Trek Online has given them more love than the actual shows. Players can encounter Tzenkethi ships, which are distinctive and formidable, emphasizing their militaristic strength. Their designs feel different from the typical Federation or Klingon aesthetic, providing the sense of a unique power with its own technological philosophy. If the books and games can make the Tzenkethi feel alive, why can't the shows? The problem with playing it safe. Part of the issue is that Star Trek has a habit of falling back on its big three alien antagonists: Klingons, Romulans, and Borg. When showrunners need drama, they rarely resist revisiting these old foes. While that strategy has worked in the past, it's starting to wear thin. The Klingons have already undergone multiple reinventions, from the Cold War allegories of TOS to the warrior poet culture of TNG and the controversial redesign in Discovery. The Romulans have been central to Picard's entire narrative arc, to the point where their mystique has arguably been overexplained. The Borg remain iconic, but their constant returns risk watering down their menace. By leaning so heavily on familiar enemies, Star Trek runs the risk of stagnation. Newer shows like Strange New Worlds have experimented with fresh aliens, but the franchise still feels hesitant to truly expand its canon roster. The Tzenkethi could fix that, offering a new recurring threat that feels rooted in Trek's history while still providing untapped creative space. The Tzenkethi as the future of Trek storytelling. Here's how modern Star Trek could actually use the Tzenkethi in compelling ways. 1. A new political rival. Imagine a series where the Federation's biggest challenge isn't rebuilding relationships with the Klingons or fending off the Borg, but confronting the rise of the Tzenkethi as a major galactic power. This could mirror real-world geopolitical tensions and give Trek a new allegory to explore. 2. Cultural depth. Instead of making them one-dimensional villains, the Tzenkethi could be portrayed as a species with a proud culture, unique art and philosophy, but one built around authoritarian principles. The clash between Federation democracy and Tzenkethi order could create nuanced, morally gray conflicts. 3. A nemesis for Starfleet captains. Think about how Gul Dukat became a compelling antagonist for DS9. A well-written Tzenkethi leader could fill a similar role, challenging Federation ideals while still being sympathetic or understandable. 4. Fresh visuals. With modern effects and makeup technology, the Tzenkethi could be given a stunning design. The novel's reptilian description could translate into something visually striking, perhaps blending alien regality with an intimidating, scaled aesthetic. 5. A Typhon Pact arc. Canon could finally adopt the Typhon Pact concept, with the Tzenkethi playing a central role. This would instantly create a new Cold War dynamic for the Federation, shifting the political storytelling into fresh territory. Why now is the perfect time? The current Star Trek era is obsessed with legacy. Picard revisited the Borg and Romulans. Strange New Worlds mines the TOS era. Lower Decks constantly winks at obscure lore. That same instinct could, and should, bring the Tzenkethi into the spotlight. In fact, a species that's only ever been name-dropped,